So this is Michelle. She's my neighbor and her daughter's a friend of my daughter's. And I thought it would be really great to interview her because she does some skills that we're learning about in her job. So would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about your job a little bit?
Okay, so my name is Michelle and I am an apprentice for the Sheet Metal Union Local 206. I am studying to become a drafter, which is a person who works closely with architects, giving them the background for what's needed in my field so that the guys in my field can complete the job to the architect's standards. We do computerized drawings mostly of like HVAC work,
And what
industrial
does that stand
kitchens.
for? Or what is it?
It's for air conditioning systems.
Oh,
like,
air conditioning.
It's
okay.
it's like your heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system.
Got it.
That's heating,
Okay.
ventilation, and air conditioning.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so we just usually use the acronyms.
I
so
know.
It's
We do
so
that
hard to
as
remember.
teachers too. We use
Right.
acronyms and forget that people don't know what they mean.
Right. So that's actually a big part of my trade. Maybe 60% of all the commercial in your schools, in your hospitals. We also do stainless steel kitchens, so top to bottom is covered in metal. That way the cleanliness is easier and better, more sanitary. We also do clean rooms, so where scientists study and have experiments and stuff. We make the rooms that they're able to use. So we do a lot of it. We do a lot of different things. And the awnings outside in your school, if you have big metal awnings that give you shade while you play or eat lunch, that's what we do.
That's awesome. So our kids, these kids that are watching this, have been learning about making a blueprint to scale, and they're focusing mostly on a butterfly garden, so it's just a simple rectangular garden with milkweed and different things like that, and they're working on what fraction of their garden they want to have this plant in and what fraction of their garden they want to have that in. But one of the things they've been learning about is drawing blueprints to scale, measuring things with rulers, understanding that they can't draw the actual size of the garden on a small piece of paper, so how do they reduce that down so that it will be on the paper but represent what the size will be in real life.
Well,
so can you tell us if you do stuff like that in
we-
your job?
We use an architect scale, and most of my drawings that we do by hand are 1-to-1, which means that they're scaled to the size that we need, that we actually need to cut the metal out with. But if I were to do something out in the field and I needed to draw it up to where in your garden maybe you want to make a winding path, that is, it's not straight, it's kind of curved and you want to make it different, then I would use this, which is kind of like a French curve, but forget what they call this. But this is how I measure on my paper, and I'm able to mold it which way I want, and it has little measurements on it, in inches, which line up with my architect scale. And my architect scale has different steps on it, so if I wanted to do a 1 to 1.5, I would use this end where it says the 1.5, and it's measured out by 1.5 inches for every inch that I want.
Oh, wow. So when you say 1 to 1, are you talking 1 inch per 1 foot?
No, I'm talking 1 inch per 1 inch because what it is what we do is as far as the drafter, the drafting is all done on computer. So the computer actually does those measurements for us, which makes things a lot easier. It gets it done faster. We're able to email and communicate with the architect and the foreman that's going to be running the job and telling the men what to do. And that communication is a lot easier through computers. So everything's gone to computer now. We don't do big jobs. When I come to visit, I will bring some blueprints that you guys can see up close and personal of what it is. And then as those blueprints go out to the job, they make red mark corrections, you know, when things happen or come up. They use what's called an RFI, and it stands for something about more information. You know,
Okay.
they have some big words that is not going to really matter here.
Yeah.
So, but the I stands for information. They're looking for information, and that is able to lead to corrections, which have to go through the architect and then the drafter and then back down to the men. So it does take a few days. So
Yeah, so even just like in your writing where you have to revise and edit, you have to do that in drafting and
Right.
blueprints. It's a bunch of revising and editing. It's not just one step and you're done.
yeah, it's a process, definitely. My career is based on continuously doing something over and over and over again until you finally get it right.
Mm-hmm.
So
And I'm sure you guys need to keep trying and not give up. And
right.
yeah,
So I don't know if you can see this on there.
you can walk closer to the computer.
I don't know if you guys can actually.
It's a little light.
There we go. So that is a drawing that I made of a part that we needed to build. We needed to build this part to look different from the bottom being a flat piece. And I can actually bring this part when I come so that you guys can see it up close and personal. But the bottom part is a flat piece. And hold on. There. That way you guys can see a little better. But there's a flat bottom, and then these black lines bend up, and then this black line bends down, so that this is 8 inches back, but this side is only 3. So it's a lot skinnier. So it has a 5-inch pitch. Do they know what pitch is?
No, they haven't
Okay.
done that.
A pitch is the angle at which it either elevates or descends. So if it's going up 5 inches, then it's from one part to another. You have to figure out how much of an angle it needs to make those 5 inches work. So that's what I do. That's the drawings we actually draw by hand still. So to make something like that, especially in the field. But as far as like drawing these drawings, we use French curves. We use angle. We use this for angles. We have our triangles. These are really the only 2 triangles we use, which is a 30-60 and a 45-90. And then they have
Is
all
that
the
the
little-
angle? Those are the angle numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they're called. Is
The angle degrees.
degrees.
Yeah.
And that's what they identify them as.
Yeah, and they'll
30
learn this a little bit later in math when they
60.
learn about triangles. But yeah, so the angles are these parts of the triangles,
Right.
and that's what she's talking about.
Okay. So let's see what else we have. Oh, here. This is a book that I have to work with to kind of show you how thick it is. It's kind of big, but it has all the different kinds of difficult parts and pieces that we have to learn by hand. duct is the way your air conditioning system keeps you cool and filters out all of the dirty air. It's built as pieces of metal shaped in either round or square shapes, usually built with sheet metal, not thick metal, because you wouldn't be able to bend it very well. And they're put in different sizes to be able to navigate around all of the rest of the plumbing. So we have the plumbers and the sprinkler fitters. They all have stuff up in your ceiling along with our stuff, and so we all have to work together to make sure that everything fits. So
and we actually have a part of our campus being built right now, and so they've gotten to see from ground up the different components being put together. So I'm sure some of those machines we've been hearing all day long are those machines of putting the metal together.
Yeah, well, a lot of the stuff is built off-site, but there are a lot of times that we have to fabricate something right on set, because something was built for doing it one way, and then they did an RFI and decided that it needs to go, 2 inches taller, and now we have to make a piece that is not the same size. So I've actually done that a few times on set, and it's not as difficult as you might think, but you need to know the math.
Right.
Which brings me to this. Is a special calculator, and I guess I'll kind of put it up.
Yeah.
But it has all these funny looking little buttons, and you can see it's specially made for sheet metal and my industry. So, and without this calculator, I would need big sheets of paper to work out all the word problems that I use every day, that I end up asking a question, well, I have this duct over here and I have that duct over there, and how much of a pitch, when we talked about pitch, it was the angle, how much of an angle
would you say,
do I need?
if we were to look at a visual, like this would be a pitch?
That is a pitch, yes.
The side of the triangle.
Right. So, and how much do I need to connect those two pieces?
Yeah, so all those word problems you do with Miss Covey every day,
they matter.
Very applicable for real life.
They matter. The better you are at word problems, the better job you will have. So those are the people that they keep. People come in and out of my union all day long, not being able to do some of these things, and those are not the people that the companies keep. They keep the ones that know how to work the problem, that know how to come up with the right problem, and then solve it for the answer. So those are your word problems right there.
Right. Yeah, and your basic multiplication and division that you guys are all doing right now is really useful for drawing these scales, because remember, you have to figure out what size can represent a larger size, and we do that a lot with multiplication and division.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, do you have any other questions?
I just want to talk about this real quickly. You were telling me about these.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so this is the next class that I'm going to end up taking, is my intermediate drafting course. There are multiple steps you have to take to become a drafter in this field, and so the first one is to get into the apprenticeship. I mean, you can go to class for being a drafter, but in the end, every drafter is going to need to figure out which field he wants to go into, or she wants to go into, and then you do the apprenticeship there at that trade. And
that's kind of like learning on the job, right? You're working with someone already in the career, and they're teaching you the basics.
About all the different problems that come up, especially. So, I mean, my job is based upon problem solving. The architect gets the fun job and gets to have all of the fun, imaginative things, but it's the drafter that actually brings that dream to life. So that's why I love my job.
Yeah.
So each step, it takes a lot of work for a drafter to complete. And so once you get into the apprenticeship, which you have to test into, so using all of your math and fractions, your basic math skills,